DRIPPMAN, 2-piece, and this is Drippinionated. Yeah, what's happening with it? DRIPPMAN, 2-piece. Today on Drippinionated, I want to talk about 6ix9ine. What are my thoughts on 6ix9ine? What type of influence did he have on me? Etc. Etc. Hey, listen, let's get this out the way. 6ix9ine is a groundbreaking entertainer, artist, something we ain't saw before. From his aesthetic, to his tattoo game, to his marketing game, that boy was wicked. It's the reason he ain't had a hit record in 6-7 years, but he's still front page news. Let's get into it.
So when you originally hear the name 6ix9ine, Tekashi, that sounds saucy, right? For sure. At least he picked a saucy name. But as far as I know, he took the name Tekashi from his roommate or something, or either it was his roommate's name, or maybe his roommate liked anime, and there was a character called Tekashi or something like that. Something to that effect. Y'all know I'm not really a researching ass nigga, but from my understanding, that's how he came up with the Tekashi part. You know, I guess you stole a saucy name. But that's not your idea. So F for non-originality type shit. I don't really understand where the 6ix9ine come from. I don't know if that's like a New York thing, because when I think about it, they also got like 50 Cent type shit. But like, again, 50 Cent stole his name from somebody else. These New York niggas is wild, man.
Listen, man, I'm just trying to be objective here. You know what I'm talking about? At the beginning, I said he's groundbreaking. That's amongst other things. That boy gets no credit for how he came up with the name. Although he does get credit for the proliferation of his name. Before his name was proliferated, and he came up with the image that he has now, that super gangster, yeah, image. He experimented with a lot of other things. And there were some other less known people that were involved with the story. Let's talk about it.
Like the Zilla Kami part, or Killer's Army, or whatever they call it. Scum Gang, or I think it was like the origination of that. And I don't know if them niggas cool now. But as far as my understanding of this part of Dog's story, they was making rock music and all different types of shit that sounded like it was saucy in theory. I did go and listen to some of the tracks from back then, and in my opinion, they're ass. But the intention was there, the vision was there, and obviously that planted seeds. You know what I mean? For him, I think that the seeds, you know what I mean, it grew into what it grew into. But I find that part of the story, from what I understand, real interesting. I encourage you to do your own little research. You researching ass nigga, you know what I mean, and get into tune with how this part of his life influenced him.
Yeah, I'ma keep it funky like a monkey, okay? Holla for $1. The scum gang, society can't understand me, and some of the meanings behind that is super duper saucy. 6ix9ine might just be more of a revolutionary than we give him credit for. Cool. Let's talk about how he started blowing up and why he wanted to associate with a gang. And did that help him? Did it hurt him? Both, possibly.
So 6ix9ine, before he even got famous, like, he was a meme. Like, his memes of just how he was dressing and his aesthetic was going mad viral. And that was a strategy for him, for sure. That was definitely a strategy for him. Versus how I feel like it's an expression of myself. Is how I would compare the nuance of those two things for a DRIPPMAN versus 6ix9ine. But that's one element of the game, though, he definitely understood as far as how to exploit it. He was a visionary in that aspect. So, boom, he's going viral for his look. He actually was gaining fans overseas and cultivating that fan base and starting to see the proceeds from that. 6ix9ine, being the big stepper he is, found a way to leverage that
into the situation that he went into with Shotty and Treyway. This is the sensational part. You know what I mean? Get your popcorn ready type shit. And 6ix9ine, at this part of his career, trying to figure out a way to legitimize his name. How can I get people to take me serious? Obviously, he's commanding the attention. But unless people are taking you serious, it's probably not going to get as big as what it needs to be. So, boom. He comes up with this play where, hey, Shotty, I, 6ix9ine, am making, $20,000, $30,000 at this point every month for my YouTube on top of, you see my reach on social media. I have a way to market the gang and to fund the gang in unimaginable ways in exchange for y'all stamping me. 6ix9ine understood how powerful gang influence and gang culture is in hip-hop. And when you multiply that by a 6ix9ine, the way he looks and his attitude, it's clear that he understood what was going to happen with that. We had never seen that before. And what a sensation it became. To have the gang behind you, a legitimate gang, again. I mean, he had some hitters behind him. That was a power move. It wasn't like he was just doing that shit for the camera. I mean, that part of the story can't be disputed. Like, he definitely hooked up with some hitters who was doing some shit in the streets. They recorded it, charged, and they talked about it in the trial, and people have whatever opinions that they have about that. But people can't say those things never happened. You know what I mean? So, feel about that how you want to. My interpretation of that is he made a power move. Facts. So he links up with Treyway, they stamp him. They out there doing what they're doing. And 6ix9ine being fearless. Hey, he talking shit to all the rappers. He talking shit to fame. He talking shit to everybody. And everybody's biting. And what I admired and really loved about 6ix9ine, what really excited me at first, yeah, he was talking his shit, you know what I mean? He's going to Chicago. He's going to Chicago feeding people in the rack and trolling old block and saying shit like suck my dick. He's been a little bit more, offensive, but he was being funny with it. He had the moments with like Trey songs where he acting like he can sing. Y'all remember that video? And when he was trolling FBG Duck, I thought that shit was hilarious. I thought that shit was gangster and hilarious. And he had this shit where, even the beef with Trippie Redd, there was the gangster part where they jumped him, but there was also just some of the funny trolling shit. Yo, when he trolled Juice WRLD, that was some legendary shit. It was just a funny troll where he was like, yo, Juice WRLD had like a simp song out at the time, and 6ix9ine made a video of like, watching this girl, getting cucked out or something as a shadow on the wall. Yeah, that video, So, just a funny guy. And he just was blowing the internet away because you just couldn't figure him out. Is he a gangster? Is he not a gangster? I don't know, but this guy's exciting. He's bold. He's fearless. And apparently, he's a real blood. From there, 6ix9ine, he's not a great artist. He'll tell you that himself, meaning he doesn't write his own music. He's not a hit maker. He needed some hits. I don't know the specific story behind how he got that shit done, but that boy got that shit done. The fuck is you talking about, nigga? Kuda? The fuck is you talking about? And Tati, Fifi. That boy came with some hits. It was like 100 for 100 in a row on Billboard charts. Like, even if you ain't a big follower, and one thing you knew was that initial run, he was, 20 for 20 or 39 for 39 on the Billboard charts or whatever he was doing. And I don't know, gang, but yeah, them songs were slapping. Yes, they were. I don't care. You know what I mean? So,
whatever, if he stole them or I don't know. I don't care. He put it all together. So he deserves credit for that. He's a legend for that run. I think it was 2018. I think it was late 2017. I think, yeah, until late 2018. Legendary run. And it all like cultivated. Arguably the height of that was probably when he got jumped and robbed by his own gang.
Pause. You know what I'm talking about? Because up to this point, 6ix9ine rolling. You heard me, but this is a key point, a critical point that we have to pause and really emphasize. This is really where the downfall or the fall off started happening. That boy had made some serious miscalculations, in my opinion, that I think need a deeper dive.
I feel like the height of the whole Treyway thing was when 6ix9ine got robbed and kidnapped by Harv. Nah, not the Harv from Home Alone. Wait, that's Marv, my bad. These weren't no fake Home Alone goons, gang. I'm telling you, this was not Marv. This was Harv and the goons, gang. Slapped 6ix9ine up with the glizzy. You know what I mean? He pulled them out of little Jose Escobar's limo. You know what I mean? He slapped him up and he took all of 6ix9ine's chains, ran a train on his baby mama in front of him in the driveway, and then released 6ix9ine. And 6ix9ine was so scared he ran to a pole, smacked his head, and that's how he got the bruise on his face. And okay, so anyway, the specific details might be up for debate, but what's not up for debate is them niggas. Them niggas showed him, hey, if you in this life, there's consequences if you ain't moving correctly. At that point, 6ix9ine began to get exposed a little bit, even if not publicly, definitely internally, right? And it wasn't even that he got touched. Real gangsters know that's a part of the game. Even though there was a million people that wanted to see it happen, like, whatever. That's a part of the game. But that layer of, like, you're the gang leader is, starts to crumble and fall apart. And that's really how 6ix9ine was positioning himself like a mob boss this whole time. He's calling the hits. You know what I mean? So the way that he getting slimed out, you start to question his power, and 6ix9ine knew that. You know what I mean? So that led into him doing the second Breakfast Club interview, where he basically slimed out all the Bloods that he was running with and have some strong opinions about them. I'm sure y'all remember that interview. 6ix9ine was talking this shit. 6ix9ine felt untouchable at that point because 6ix9ine got what he needed out of the Bloods. Like, let's be honest. 6ix9ine is obviously going to paint it his way. Anytime somebody tells the story, there's his story, their story, and what's in between. Let me tell you what's in between. Yeah, them niggas was fucking over 6ix9ine and they robbed him, and goddamn it, anybody in their right mind would have slimed the gang out. But let's be honest. At that point, 6ix9ine had no need for them either, though. Right? At that point, 6ix9ine got 40 hits on the Billboard. He's the most talked about, not just rapper, but celebrity in the world. He just released an album that went #1. He's collaborating with all the biggest artists. And at that point, he's probably raking in millions every month. As evidenced by that, when he was sliming out the Bloods, he pointed out that they stole, $3 million from him to set up shows where they only gave him like $300,000. And they kept $3 million of it or something like that, according to him. We know he was getting money because he canceled those shows and gave the promoters back their money and said, hey, fuck all that shit, we ain't gonna do it until the business is right. There's artists in the game that signed for a chicken wing, you know what I mean? Because they ain't got it like that. So that's just a powerful illustration of where, 6ix9ine was at. Like, he was a boss. He could do whatever he wanted to do because, the money's coming in, dog. The money's coming in. However, he overestimated that part of it. A big thing about Tekashi and 6ix9ine's run that both built him up and was his downfall was he was always talking about, hey, I'm number one. You know, look at the numbers. Like, yeah, ha, ha, ha. No matter how you feel, just look at the numbers. Be mad, be mad, be mad. He lived and died by those, which was exciting for me as a fan of him to watch. Like, yeah. And so, you know, when he snitched on the gang and all that other stuff happened that you guys have talked enough about, so I don't need to cover, and he got out of prison, it was a dope moment to see him get on Instagram Live and break the Instagram Live record by having, like, you know, 10 million people watching him. And it was dope to see him going on sort of a redemption run, but he inevitably fell off because there wasn't enough substance behind what he was doing. He started to believe a little bit too much into the ego and the facade part of it. So even though, you know, 6ix9ine, and he's made it work because you got to understand he's a legend. He's going to make whatever he's doing work. But to me, just analyzing the situation, that's where he handcuffed himself. Is he didn't have any substance behind it. He thought he was just going to ride out the gangster image and keep throwing around money, and by throwing around money that would keep making money or whatever he was thinking. And hey, listen, the guy's not broke. He has M's now, so I'm not criticizing that part. But if you really study the downfall of his music, the declining perception of him being an actual gang leader, which started with him getting robbed, going along with the declining money and support, you know, because he was not getting playlisted anymore, led to a period of time where, hey, 6ix9ine fell the fuck off.
I think it's time to provide some perspective. 6ix9ine had been through a lot, obviously, up to that point. His downfall and going to prison and the decisions that he made to rat on the gang have been well documented. But there's an angle that I want to talk about that I don't feel like's been covered yet. Hear me out.
The thing I admire about the ratting situation is how Tekashi has owned it. You do have to give him credit for that. And he's owned it in a lot of different ways, you know what I mean? In some very creative ways. He's cracked jokes about it. There's definitely times when he got defensive. That boy threw a fucking champagne bottle and busted a stripper over the head for calling him his stage. And goddamn it, she won the lottery off of that nigga. You know what I mean? That was part of his downfall. So, you know, don't get the rough exterior fucked up. He's definitely had some sensitive moments about it. And he's gone overboard trying to prove whatever he's trying to prove, but he certainly has owned it in creative ways. Like, he came out, he had the Gooba song, which was a smash. And in the music video, he had the rat emoji head. I thought that was dope. I thought it was dope just because of how unprecedented it was and how unexpected it was. Yeah, that's dope. Brave. He wasn't shying away from it. As a matter of fact, he is so bold. 6ix9ine went on a whole media press run to talk about. And whether you agree or disagree with his reasons for doing it, like I said, y'all can talk about that shit. I don't care about all that shit. I don't find myself in those types of situations to even care to comment on it. But he was very brave and bold for going on the press when he did. And he was so aggressive about it that there was a lot of media outlets that 6ix9ine reached out to for interviews that declined him, like $1 million worth of game, and a few other media outlets who were blackballing him unfairly and unjustly, I may add. And instead of getting deterred, he reached out to fucking news stations. He did a podcast interview on Jake Paul's podcast, and whatever else he did. Like I said, you know what I mean? I'm not obsessed with the nigga, but like I did see, you know, some of the shit he was doing. I'm sure he did more than that. And he was going a little bit overboard on his explanations. I'm not saying I agree with his explanations or not. All I'm trying to say is he deserves credit, undisputable credit, where credit is due. And DRIPPMAN ain't no capping ass nigga, so I'm trying to come to you with facts. If I were to give you an opinion on if I agree or disagree with what he was saying about why he snitched, that would be an opinion. The fact here is that boy has some nuts for the way he owned that snitching shit. Fuck is you talking about?
We know what the prevailing opinion about 6ix9ine is. Blah, blah, blah in the ratting situation. But I thought I'd give you an interesting angle and perspective that I haven't heard from other media outlets that cover this story. Just a little something for you to think about. So that was a little part that I was feeling. I did like that, the way he owned it. Not necessarily digging the shit he's up to nowadays, though, and I'm going to tell you why.
6ix9ine nowadays. It was hilarious when the IRS came and repossessed all of his shit, gang. Like all of his platinum plaques and his jewelry and all that, because he ain't pay his tax bill. Like, even as a 6ix9ine fan, I thought that shit was hilarious. You know what I mean? All that big boy shit you was talking just for, like, this to be one of the L's you took was like a premium L. Hilarious. But, obviously, 6ix9ine, as we keep seeing, is a resilient motherfucker. I mean, because, again, the IRS repossessed this shit. And Steve Will Do It said, fuck that nigga. He robbed me for $20 million or whatever it was. And you knew Steve Will Do It was feeling some type of way because that nigga got slimy with it. He wouldn't expose 6ix9ine with 6ix9ine's baby mama like, oh, dog don't even take care of his kids. Steve Will Do It pulled the 6ix9ine on 6ix9ine and went and dropped the bag on 6ix9ine's daughter. You know what I mean? So you knew shit was really falling apart for 6ix9ine. Or was it? Because nowadays, 6ix9ine bounced back handsomely from that. And so my take on that, man, he a gangster for that. He's definitely a fucking visionary for that. Because he was taking some L's where people were like, nah, he's fried, he's cooked, he's done. And now he got Facts TV and he walking niggas down apparently, you know what I mean? Excitedly. He had that legendary interview with Vlad TV where he's just owning shit. He like, yeah, I stole Trippie Redd's, song and, whatever, which wasn't a surprise. Like, but, just the way he said it, he made it a moment. And Boosie mad at the nigga. And, 6ix9ine's back to center of attention. The internet was boring without him, so he definitely has a place here. For sure. The thing that I find genius about 6ix9ine, because Steve Will Do It, ain't just gonna act slimy for no reason and expose you with your baby mama and all. Him and 6ix9ine orchestrated that for sure. It was smart for 6ix9ine to do that for a couple reasons. Number one, that type of storyline is gonna go viral no matter what. That's 6ix9ine marketing to his haters, knowing that they were gonna get his name back popping. Steve Will Do It, being the awesome friend that he is. And also, obviously, probably having a realistic situation. Like that 2 million shit was probably real. And so 6ix9ine was like, hey, the way for me to pay you back here, let's run this play. You act like you mad at me, you expose me, you make some videos, you get some millions of views off of that. The ad revenue alone for niggas, doing 1 million views on YouTube is anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, for an ordinary streamer or, YouTube star, let alone somebody like Steve Will Do It. So, yeah, let's make 10, 20 videos about this. Let's drag it out. Make a video of my baby mama, Whoopty Wompty. Steve Will Do It does 50 million views, 100 million views, gang. There's $1 million right there. So on and so forth. And I don't know if that's what their agreement was, but me just putting, 3 and 3 together, it's adding up to 100 right now. You know what I mean? And so without further breaking that down, because that's not what this video is, you know what I mean? Run with that storyline as you guys should. That deserves some further exploring. But, if we pause for a second and consider any factuality to that statement, like, if before niggas call him a fraud, I think that's genius, gang.
That boy 6ix9ine has always been controversial. That's a fact. On this episode, I think that we've established that he's worthy of that controversy on the very least. And that is my Drippinion. Thank you for tuning in to Drippinionated. We saucy as over here, so make sure you hit that sub button, that like button, and feedback. That part. Drop them comments.